to this vlog on binge eating. And I've wanted this vlog for a while, so here it goes. So I went through a phase of like binge eating about 2 years ago, and it kind of like maybe started from, I was in India after I'd been traveling, and I was there for 3 weeks on my own in a hotel with unlimited food, and I think my appetite kind of really increased. And then when I got home, I decided to go self-employed. So I'd been living out, I went traveling, and then I moved back in with my mum as I got back home from traveling, and started personal training, working for myself, many hours off, and my lifestyle basically changed. I'm not really sure how long it kind of went on for, but either way it happened, this whole binge eating thing. And now I'm gonna describe what I would describe binge eating to be, which is a thing that no one wants to admit that they do. I feel like people keep it quite quiet. It's that thing where you just feel like a bit of an animal. So you're not hungry, you actually can be stuffed, and you're sat there just eating, just like you just keep eating. You're not really sure why, you just keep doing it. You could be like so bloated and so stuffed, but you just keep eating on things you don't really care about as well. Also, you know what, if you're watching this and you've done this before, like please just comment that you have, rather than pretending that you're perfect. Or like you're driving and all you think about is food, like you think about food all the time, and you might stop off at like a petrol station and you might buy some sugary stuff, right? Or you buy something, anyway, you eat it and you finished eating it, and then there's another petrol station, so you stop off and then you buy some more crap, and then you drive home, and then you're like, well, I've already done that. Anyway, so it's the thing that no one wants to admit that they do. No one wants to admit that they stay at home, they pour a bowl of cereal and they eat it, and then they go downstairs again, and then they pour another bowl of cereal, and then they sit with their head in the fridge and they're like, what else can I eat? Oh, okay, fine. And then they eat like some whatever. Like no one wants to be that person, because A, it's not like, doesn't come across very attractive, and B, it's like it's just not something people like to admit. But yeah, so that's binge eating. But I don't really want to talk about my experience, because everyone talks about their experience and it's all very similar, so I don't really want to talk about that. If you're watching this video, you probably already know how binge eating can be about, or if you've ever had a binge, you already know that. I don't need to tell you that. But I want to kind of just put together some things that I did that I feel really helped, because ever since, and I have dieted since, I haven't really gone through the motions again like I did back then. So I wanted to share some things that I would advise you try to do. Maybe it'll help, it helped me. So number one is to admit to yourself that you probably have a little bit of an addiction, that this binge eating thing is not very normal, and that you have a situation that you need to work on. So number two, I would suggest that you have a look at how often you're binge eating and jot it down for the week. Then next week your goal is to binge eat a little less. That's like your goal. Your goal isn't to lose weight, or your goal, you don't then say you're going to overcome binge eating by setting another weight loss goal or setting another physique goal, etc., or cutting out like any crap foods. Like, don't set those kind of goals. Just set a goal to binge eat less the next week, because this is what you're trying to overcome, not to lose weight as such. However, saying that, if you are binge eating less, you're more than likely going to lose some weight / fat. So my next point would be real with yourself at the end of the day. Find something, you know, to snap you back into reality, to keep you true to yourself. So I chose stepping on the scales, but that's just because it was personal to me. I didn't need to talk to anyone about it. I just stepped on scales every morning. But you could take a photo of yourself, and you could then do that every week. You could check in with a friend and say to them, you know, this is my measurement, and then every week you do something like that. But find something to be accountable for, because it's gonna, at the end of the day, that's gonna keep you real, you know? So point number 4 is to recognize that you have an issue with food, not with training. Majority of people will find it very easy to the next day get into the gym and do an hour of cardio to make themselves feel better, or to work really, really hard in their weight session, or to do some extra like interval training to make themselves feel better for what they ate. My take on this is stop doing that, because all you're doing is allowing yourself to think that it's okay to overeat, because all you're going to do is just reverse it the next day because you're going to train, when it doesn't actually work like that. And you're not trying to lose weight, you're trying to get out of this horrible like issue that you have or whatever. So stop putting in extra training to make yourself feel better about overeating, and focus on the overeating. And also, personally, the more you train, the hungrier you're gonna get. That's it, point proven, point done. Point number 5 is now to just start thinking about your habits, okay? So when you're binge eating, if it's when you're on your own, if it's when you're left with certain food, is it after your late shift, you always tend to have a binge on your way home, and try and understand maybe why. Try and look at the foods that you tend to binge eat on. Try and look at maybe the supermarket that you always go to, where you get your food from to binge eat. And like any addiction, try to avoid / find alternatives to this. You know, for example, if someone's trying to cut down on alcohol, maybe they won't go to the pub as much. Or someone who's trying to stop smoking may, first of all, just cut it down, and maybe think about every time they want to have a cigarette, they'll go for something to eat, or they'll go for one of these chewing gums or something. So you're looking for like a little alternative instead. And number 6 is to be proud. I know this sounds cringe, but take every day as it goes. Like a day, if you would binge eat every day and you went 2 days without binge eating, like be happy about that, you know? And then you just keep trying. It is something that takes time, like, and it's hard to get around, like, you know, when you've overeaten the next day and then not going to the gym to try and make yourself feel better about it, about just trying to trust the process. And I think that that was the hardest thing for me, was just being like accepting the fact that I had a binge, and that my goal was to not binge as much, rather than my goal being to try and try and look a certain way. Because if my goal was to look a certain way, then yeah, I'd probably have to go and then do cardio, and that wouldn't have helped me to get past binging. It wouldn't have helped me at all. And number 7 is to remember that it's all mental. It really, really is. It's all mental. Like, we can go probably a day without eating and we would be fine. Like, we'd be just fine. So what I would do sometimes is go shopping, and I would end up putting all the things into my basket that I really wanted. And then by the time I got to the counter, I would just sit there and I would take them out, because I knew it was more just my head. And if I actually took a moment to sit back and use like my brain and think, do I really want to buy these things? I would not, so I would put them back. And that actually worked for me, because sometimes I would be like, no, I'm not going to stop off, I don't want to buy crap, I don't want to eat rubbish, but I still find myself there. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I didn't manage to achieve the fact that I'm not going to go to the place. So I've still got there, but there's still time to not eat and buy all the crap. So maybe put it all into my basket, and I'd always buy like something like cherry tomatoes or cucumber, something that I could eat. And then by the time I got to the counter, I'll just be like, Nicole, you don't need this stuff, and take it out. And it's just about being mentally strong at the end of the day. Just like any addiction you're trying to give up, you've got to be strong in here. And don't start on Monday, or don't start the next day. Like, aim to start like right that second. You know, if you have a binge in the morning, it doesn't mean the whole day is a write-off. You start again from the next meal, and you start again from the next meal. And that's how it should be. And I'm gonna end this video with just a little thought, because when I was going through the binge eating, I was asked to do a photo shoot. And I actually was like, okay, well, I'm gonna need to step it up now, and I'm gonna have to start dieting, I'm gonna have to start hitting macros properly. And I then sat down and I said, you know what, mentally, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not, and what it will do is I'll do it, I'll diet down, and then I'll end up binge eating all over again, and I just wanted to get over the binge. So I actually did this photo shoot, and maybe I'll put some photos up to show you, but it was the biggest I'd ever been. I did not feel confident in front of the camera, but in my head I was just like, relax, you really have, like, it's all gonna be a process, and it's gonna be better by the end of it. So I did a photo shoot, not in my usual shape, because I wanted to get past my binge eating rather than just diet down and do it all over again. So I was patient and I got over myself. And that's my advice. Oh, and I believe this will be point A, is I took the intuitive eating approach. So basically I didn't cut anything out. I didn't say I can't have this, I can't have that. I just tried not to binge eat on them, and I understood my habits, like we said before, you know, like there was foods that I would binge eat more on, so I would try and stay away from those as much as possible. And yeah, like that was my approach. I went through intuitive eating because, like I said, although I was weighing myself and stuff, my goal wasn't weight loss, my goal was to just stop binge eating. So I didn't cut out any foods or stick to any macronutrients. I just tried not to binge on certain foods, and the ones that I did, I found that cutting them out or not having them nearby was the best way to go about it, for some part of it. I even did things like, because I used to binge eat on protein bars, so I would do this thing where I would say to myself, okay Nicole, you can have half a protein bar and you need to wait another like 2 hours or so till you can have the other half. And it sounds silly, but it like disciplined me, and it made me, like, it sounds silly, but it was a little challenge that I had in my head, and it worked. And then I slowly went back onto macros / calorie counting, and that got me back into it. But I would suggest intuitively eating for a while. But I mean, I would suggest setting your goal, forget about everything else, and set your goal to stop binge eating. Because if you're trying to have any other goals, it doesn't help. Your goal is to stop binge eating. So focus on that first, one thing at a time.